Nothing could have prepared Tara Pakanich for what she encountered the early morning hours of February 23, 2022. Inside a green bucket covered with a shower towel at her home in Green Bay, Wisconsin, was the mutilated head of her 24-year-old son, Shad Thyrion. Shad's torso, private parts, and carved out organs were later found by law enforcement inside plastic bags and cardboard boxes in the basement. Taylor Schabusiness, also of Green Bay, was charged with first-degree intentional homicide, third-degree sexual abuse, and mutilating a corpse. Let's get into it. Shad Thyrion was born on September 7, 1997 in Green Bay, Wisconsin to Tara Pakanich and Michael Thyrion. He had two sisters, Ava and Sylvia, and a brother named Boo. He attended Bayport High School from 2012 to 2015, but left without graduating. Shad enjoyed camping, playing games, and spending time with his family. He was known to be a very kind and compassionate person who often put others before himself. He was also a talented artist and enjoyed wood carving. On February 21, 2022, around 9:30 p.m., Shad was picked up from the home of his mother by Taylor, with whom he had an on and off again sexual relationship with. The couple, joined by a friend, went to an apartment on Eastman Avenue and smoked marijuana. After the friend left, Taylor and Shad smoked meth and injected trazodone. They then returned to Shad's mother's house. Taylor Schabusiness was born Taylor Coronado on November 23, 1997, to Marla and Artho Coronado. According to her father, Taylor lost her mom at the age of 11 and her brother in 2022 to a motorcycle crash. After her mother's passing, her father remarried. However, the marriage fell apart after he was accused of assaulting a 13-year-old in his care. The victim was a relative of Coronado's then wife who filed for divorce just a few weeks later. He is currently serving a 12-year sentence for second-degree sexual assault of a child. He was sentenced a week before Taylor after he pled no contest. Taylor married Warren Schabusiness on February 14, 2020. The couple had a son together who is currently living with his grandparents in Texas. Warren is currently serving time for federal drug charges. The charges stem from a traffic stop on November 13, 2020, during which members of the police department discovered 46 grams of meth that a witness said belonged to Warren. Warren agreed to a deal in which he entered a guilty plea to the charge that he knowingly and intentionally possessed with intent to distribute a mixture and substance containing a detectable amount of meth. Taylor's legal troubles began after she met Warren, with her first felony arrest happening on June 21, 2020. Officers responded to a request for a welfare check on a female that knocked on a man's door and seemed to be under the influence of narcotics. When officers arrived on the scene, things allegedly took a turn. Taylor started to get argumentative and started to walk away. Because she started to walk into oncoming traffic, one of the officers tried to stop her, and Taylor got upset and started kicking him. When another officer came to assist, she also kicked him. She was charged with resisting arrest and battery on a member of law enforcement. She entered a no-contest plea to the battery charge and was put on probation for 3 years while also being ordered to undergo a psychological evaluation. Her next brush with the law came 2 months later when she allegedly led an officer on a high-speed chase after he attempted to pull her over. During the search of her car, officers found narcotics. This offense resulted in charges of knowingly fleeing or eluding an officer and bail jumping for not adhering to the guidelines of her probation. Taylor agreed to enter a no-contest plea to the charges of fleeing and obstructing the officer. In January 2022, she received 2 years probation for eluding the police and 3 months in local jail for bail jumping. and 3 months in local jail for the bail jumping. The local jail sentence got reduced just to house arrest. Taylor claimed that she and Shad had been engaged in erotic asphyxiation in prior encounters, and on this night, they had used metal chains. She said that Chad got out 2 metal silver chains, one that he had around his neck and one he gave her. She described the chains as like a dog choke collar. Shad laid face down on the bed, and Taylor said she went crazy and began to choke him with the chain, and she did not stop even though he was coughing up blood and his face turned purple. She continued until he was deceased, which took about 3 to 5 minutes. Taylor then proceeded to perform oral and used toys on the body for several hours afterwards. The following morning, she dismembered the body with knives she found at the house. She was planning to take all the body parts with her, but she got lazy and she didn't. Some body parts were in the van that she was driving, and some again in the basement, placed in plastic shopping bags, a cardboard box, a plastic bucket, and a plastic storage container. Taylor told investigators that she positioned Shad's body on the bed and beheaded it over a bucket and a storage tote to contain the blood. She then dumped the blood down the basement shower drain after she claimed she showered in it. Tara, Shad's mother, and her boyfriend Steve Hendricks were away at the time, but 2 days later, February 23, 2022, Shad's mother was awakened by a storm door slamming between 2:30 and 3:30 a.m. She got up, saw a light in the basement where she discovered a bucket with her son's head in it. It had been covered with a towel. Steve called the police, who did a search of the basement and found the human organs stuffed in plastic bags and cardboard boxes. Shad's torso was discovered in the tote with his dismembered foot placed inside it. Additional body parts, including a leg, were found in a crock pot inside Taylor's roommate's van. Investigators also found Shad's private parts in the bucket with his head. Taylor was found later on Eastman Avenue at her apartment. She had scratches on her arms, which she claimed were self-inflicted. A Green Bay police officer observed her covered in a red substance and noticed smeared blood on her hands and dried blood on the back of her sweatshirt. Police took 2 people in for questioning, Taylor and her roommate Scott Thomas. That is because Taylor used his minivan to transport and dispose of Shad's body. Thomas cooperated with police immediately and was released due to the fact that he was not involved. Taylor willingly spoke with police after her arrest and told officers she decapitated Shad, who was 25 at the time of his death. Taylor was taken into custody, and the Brown County Court Commissioner set her bail at $2 million. On February 14, 2023, during a hearing, Taylor attacked her attorney, Quinn Jolly, after he requested the trial date to be pushed back so experts could determine her competency to stand trial. Taylor was wrestled to the courtroom floor by a deputy. Attorney Jolly told Judge Wash he would file a motion to be removed from the case. He was replaced by Christopher Foliage on March 3, 2023, who requested that Judge Wash recuse himself as his witnessing the attack could affect his ruling. Wash declined. Christopher was also the lawyer for Taylor's father's ex-wife's divorce proceedings, and Attorney Jolly had also represented Taylor's father during his court proceedings. A few weeks later, Taylor's new attorney filed a change of venue, stating that Taylor could not get a fair trial in Brown County due to the publicity of the case. He requested that she be tried outside the Brown County or just in front of a jury from a county outside of Brown County. He provided more than 100 pages of exhibits in support of his motion. He also included information from national news sites, including the Associated Press, Oxygen True Crime, and the Daily Beast. However, his request of change of venue was denied, and Taylor was scheduled to go to trial on July 24, 2023. Prior to trial, a judge approved a second competency hearing for Taylor after her defense argued the initial evaluation completed in November 22 was no longer current. Her defense claimed she may have been suffering from a mental breakdown before and after the alleged incident on February 23, 22. On July 13, 2023, the judge heard testimony from forensic psychologist Dr. Diane Linton, who testified Taylor showed signs of an active psychotic disorder and was not competent for trial. However, on July 21st, before jury selection began, a court-ordered psychologist, Dr. Matthew Seipel, testified that Taylor was competent to stand trial. The judge agreed and proceeded with jury selection. Judge Thomas Walsh explained to the jury that Taylor had entered 2 pleas, not guilty and not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Jurors were to only consider Taylor's guilt and not if she was suffering from a mental disease or defect during the incident. The trial was done in 2 phases. The first was regarding Taylor's charges. The second phase focused on whether Taylor was responsible for the crime. 25-year-old Taylor Schabusiness was charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault. She pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Green Bay Police Detective David Graff testified in court that Taylor had initially claimed to have blackened out while choking Shad, but then allegedly admitted she regained consciousness and thought she was already this far, so she just kept on. Following her arrest, Taylor confessed to killing Shad and boasted that officers would have fun trying to find all of his organs. Detective Graff went on to recount various abuses to which Taylor stated she did to Shad's corpse. He also said that following his death, she had also cuddled the body, saying that she liked it. Taylor also told officers she had enjoyed killing Shad and made comments to detectives during her interview asking if they knew what it was like to love something so much that you kill it. Day 4 trial, Taylor's father entered the courtroom in leg and wrist shackles and an orange jumpsuit to testify on her behalf. He testified that he sought help for his daughter on several occasions because she suffered from hallucinations and wasn't in her right mind. He said that he was always worried about her mental health. A psychologist for the defense testified during the trial that Taylor was not criminally responsible for her actions because she suffered from severe bipolar disorder that rendered her unable to appreciate the wrongfulness of her actions. However, 2 court-appointed psychologists that testified for the state stated that Taylor's actions were fueled by drugs, which made her ineligible for the not guilty insanity plea under Wisconsin's definition of a mental disease or defect. They pointed to her decision to dismember Shad's body and clean the basement crime scene as evidence that she knew that her actions were wrong. But Taylor's attorney argued that the drugs may have compounded her psychosis, but there was enough evidence that she suffered from a long-standing disorder affecting her actions going back to adolescence. Dr. Vincent Trenchita, who works for the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office, performed the autopsy on Shad after helping to collect and examine the remains from both his mother's house on Stony Brook Lane and the minivan Taylor was known to have been driving. The medical examiner determined Shad's cause of death was strangulation, while the manner of death was homicide. He stated that the toxicology test indicated Shad had drugs like cocaine, meth, and marijuana in his system, but the drugs did not cause his death. Taylor's grandmother, who is raising her nearly 2-year-old son, testified that Taylor was not a monster. She was a loving mother who deserves to see her son eventually. I know that she committed a crime, and I know that they want her to pay for it, but I believe that she should have the opportunity to come back to society one time and be with her son, stated her grandmother. Shad's father, Michael, also asked the court for leniency. He told Taylor he forgave her for taking away his son. I believe everybody makes bad choices, and maybe not to this scale, but I think there's a lot of hope for you, he said. I think you can make sure of your time and be a better person and do great things yet. Other members of Shad's family were not so forgiving. I'm not a praying man, but after Judge Walsh sentenced you here today, I will pray that you meet the same fate as your idol, Jeffrey Dahmer, said Kelly Thyrion, Shad's uncle. July 26, 2023, a jury convicted Taylor Schabusiness of first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault. Jurors began deliberating about 4:50 p.m. and returned to the courtroom within the hour with their verdict. As Judge Thomas Walsh announced she had been found guilty of all charges, Taylor can be seen smirking in the courtroom. Her defense attorney told the court she would speak on her own behalf before Walsh sentenced her, but when Walsh asked her if there was anything she'd like to say, she replied simply, "No, there isn't." On September 26, 2023, Judge Walsh sentenced Taylor Schabusiness to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She is serving out her sentence at the Chedita Correctional Institution, a facility housing only for female inmates.